The human brain has a secret weapon, a microscopic wall that protects it from harm. It's called the blood-brain barrier. And while it's great at blocking toxins, it's also really good at blocking medicine. That's why brain cancer, Alzheimer's, and many other neurological diseases have been so hard to treat. Until now, new technologies are breaking through the barrier, literally, and for the first time, delivering drugs directly into the brain. Let's explore how we're finally getting inside the most protected organ in the body, and what it means for the future of brain health. The brain's Fort Knox. The blood-brain barrier, or BBB, is one of the body's most impressive defense systems. It's a dense, highly selective network of cells that lines the blood vessels feeding the brain. Think of it as the brain's own security checkpoint, meticulously scanning what gets in and what stays out. The primary duty is to block out the bad guys, the harmful invaders such as bacteria, viruses, and toxic chemicals, keeping them out of the brain's inner sanctum. In many ways, this barrier is the reason our brain can function without constant attacks from the outside world. Literally nature's version of Fort Knox. But here's the twist. The same barrier that guards the brain so fiercely is also one of modern medicine's biggest headaches. Why? Because it's too good at its job. In fact, the BBB blocks roughly 98% of all drugs from entering the brain, especially large molecules or complex compounds. That means even if scientists develop a promising new therapy in the lab, there's a very good chance it'll be completely shut out before it ever reaches its target. This presents a serious problem, especially for patients battling brain tumors, epilepsy, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and other neurological conditions. The treatments exist. They're out there designed, tested, even FDA approved in some cases. But the challenge isn't just making a drug that works. It's getting that drug across the barrier and into the brain in the first place. It's like building the perfect key for a door that's sealed shut from the inside. While researchers have made incredible advances in drug development, many of these breakthroughs hit a wall, no pun intended, when it comes to the BBB. It's a sobering reality. Millions of people suffer from diseases where the problem isn't just what to treat, but how to deliver the treatment to where it's needed most. This is why the blood-brain barrier matters. It's not just a biological feature, it's a major gatekeeper in the fight against brain disease. And until we find better ways to cross it, some of our most powerful medical tools will remain locked out. The struggle to treat the brain. Doctors have tried everything. When it became clear that the blood-brain barrier was blocking most treatments, researchers didn't give up. They got creative. They tried to outsmart it. Over the years, countless strategies have been deployed to bypass, trick, or punch through this natural defense system. Some methods were bold, others were blunt, but none were ideal. One common approach? Flood the system. By giving patients extremely high doses of a drug, doctors hoped that enough of it would eventually seep through the barrier. The problem? This brute force method often came at a steep cost. Flooding the bloodstream can overload the rest of the body, leading to toxic side effects, damaged organs, and in some cases, more harm than help. The brain might get a drop of the medicine it needs, but the rest of the body suffers for it. Then there's the invasive route. Surgeons have implanted drugs directly into the brain, bypassing the barrier entirely. While this can work in specific cases like certain tumors, it's also incredibly risky. Brain surgery is never taken lightly. There's a real chance of infection, bleeding, or unintended damage. And it's not a scalable solution. We can't cut into everyone's skull every time a new treatment comes along. Another idea? Tweak the drugs themselves. Scientists have attempted to redesign drug molecules so they can sneak past the barrier, disguising them to look like something the brain would naturally let in. This molecular mimicry can be clever, and sometimes it works. But it's a long, complex, and costly process. Not every drug can be reshaped, and even when they can, the results are often disappointing. Only a small fraction of the drug ever makes it through. The bottom line? These methods, though groundbreaking in their time, have serious flaws. They're dangerous, they're inefficient, and in many cases, they're wildly expensive. For decades, this has been the status quo. We've been treating brain diseases with one hand tied behind our back. But now, that may be changing. We needed a smarter, safer way to reach the brain. A way that didn't rely on force or surgery or molecular disguise. A way that worked with the body, not against it. And at last we may have found it. The breakthrough, crossing the barrier. Scientists have developed a new generation of technologies, not just to sneak around the barrier, but to work with it. These methods aren't fiction. They're real, tangible tools, being tested in clinical trials, and in some cases already showing promise in patients. The goal is simple but revolutionary. Safely get drugs into the brain without risking damage to the barrier itself. Let's review the big three making headlines. 1. Focused ultrasound. this technique is turning sound into a surgical tool. By directing high-frequency sound waves at specific parts of the brain while injecting tiny, harmless microbubbles into the bloodstream, researchers can temporarily loosen the BBB in very precise areas. The bubbles vibrate in response to the ultrasound, gently opening the barrier for a short window of time. It's like unlocking a door just long enough to deliver the package. Then the door shuts again, leaving the brain's defenses intact. 2. Nanocarriers. Think of these as microscopic delivery trucks. Nanocarriers are engineered particles, smaller than a virus, designed to carry drugs safely through the bloodstream and across the blood-brain barrier. Some are built to mimic substances the brain already accepts, like nutrients or hormones. Others use surface coatings to evade immune detection and latch on to the brain's own transport mechanisms. Once inside, they release their cargo directly at the disease site, dramatically improving efficiency and minimizing side effects. It's the classic Trojan horse strategy, only smarter and smaller. 3. Peptide shuttles. These are specialized proteins that know how to get past the BBB. Scientists are now attaching drug molecules to these shuttles, allowing the medicine to piggyback on the brain's natural delivery systems. Instead of fighting the barrier, they ride the same routes that carry vital nutrients and hormones into the brain every day. It's elegant, biologically compatible, and surprisingly effective. These aren't just ideas in a lab. They're being tested on real patients, with real conditions, in real time. The results? Promising, controlled, and hopeful. For the first time, we're not just dreaming about crossing the blood-brain barrier, we're doing it. Key takeaways: Alzheimer's may finally have a shot. Few diseases have been as devastating and as elusive to treat as Alzheimer's. It slowly steals memory, identity, and independence. And for decades, despite billions spent on research, we've had almost nothing to stop it. The biggest challenge hasn't been understanding the disease. It's been delivering treatment where it's needed most, deep inside the brain. The drugs that might help slow the progression of Alzheimer's often work well in test tubes, and sometimes even in animals. But in humans, they hit the same old wall, the blood-brain barrier. By the time those drugs reach the brain, if they get there at all, the dose is too low to make a meaningful difference. It's like trying to fight a wildfire with a super soaker. But here's where things are starting to change. Clinical trials using focused ultrasound. Yes, sound waves have opened a new path forward. Researchers have shown that it's possible to temporarily and safely open the BBB in patients with Alzheimer's. No surgery, no permanent damage, just a precisely targeted pulse of ultrasound, combined with microbubbles in the bloodstream to gently pry open the barrier at key points. The result? Drugs that once struggled to get into the brain can now cross over in meaningful amounts. Early studies have shown that this technique enhances drug delivery in exactly the regions of the brain affected by Alzheimer's, like the hippocampus, which is critical for memory. Even more promising, the procedure itself seems to trigger a mild immune response that may help clear harmful proteins, like beta amyloid, without the need for any drugs at all. This is not a cure, let's be clear about that. But it is a foot in the door, and when it comes to Alzheimer's, that's everything. For the first time, we have a non-invasive way to bypass the barrier that has held us back for decades. It's a breakthrough that could reshape how we approach, not just Alzheimer's, but a whole range of neurodegenerative diseases. The barrier isn't broken, but now, at last, it's opening. Brain tumors can be targeted. When it comes to brain cancer, glioblastoma is the monster in the room. It's aggressive, fast-growing, and incredibly difficult to treat. Even with surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy, the prognosis is grim. Most patients survive less than 18 months after diagnosis. One of the biggest reasons? The blood-brain barrier. It doesn't just block infections and toxins. It blocks many of the chemotherapy drugs we need to fight the tumor. In short, the medicine exists, but it can't reach its target. That's where nanocarriers are changing the game. These tiny drug delivery systems, measured in billionths of a meter, are engineered to bypass the BBB and zero in on the tumor site with remarkable precision. Think of them as smart miniature cruise missiles, small enough to slip through tight defenses and guided directly to the enemy. Once they arrive, they release their cargo in form of chemotherapy agents, right where they're needed most. This approach has several major advantages. First, it means that higher concentrations of the drug can actually reach the tumor, increasing its effectiveness. Second, it spares healthy brain tissue and the rest of the body from the toxic effects of chemotherapy. That means fewer side effects, better outcomes, and potentially longer survival. Even more exciting, this technique opens the door to new strategies for managing brain tumors. For instance, doctors could use nanocarriers to shrink tumors before surgery, making them easier to remove. or they could deliver treatment directly to the surgical margins, the areas where tumor cells tend to hide and regrow, reducing the risk of recurrence. In some studies, nanocarriers are even being designed to recognize and target tumor cells specifically, leaving healthy cells untouched. This isn't just a new delivery method. It's a paradigm shift in how we treat one of the deadliest forms of cancer. By finally getting chemotherapy where it needs to go, we're giving patients a real shot, not just at treatment, but at hope. The barrier that once protected the brain at all costs is no longer an impenetrable wall. Thanks to nanocarriers, we're learning how to cross it with care, precision, and purpose. The risks and challenges. Nothing this revolutionary comes without complications. As promising as these new approaches are, they're not without risks. Temporarily opening the blood-brain barrier, even with precise techniques like focused ultrasound, raises legitimate concerns. The BBB exists for a reason, to keep harmful substances out. And if it's opened, even for just a short time, there's always the possibility that something unwanted could slip through, alongside the medicine. Unwanted bacteria, viruses, or even inflammatory molecules could cause damage, especially in vulnerable patients. Then there's the issue of nanocarriers and peptide shuttles. These are powerful tools, but also complex ones. Designing particles small enough to cross the BBB, yet stable enough to carry drugs, isn't easy. They must be engineered with extreme precision to avoid triggering the body's immune system, which might otherwise treat them as intruders. If the immune system reacts too strongly, the treatment could be neutralized, or worse, it could cause harmful inflammation or allergic responses. And even when everything works in theory, there's the practical challenge: scalability. Can these technologies be produced at scale? Can they be made consistently, affordably, and safely for thousands or millions of patients? Right now, many of these techniques are still in clinical trials or limited use research settings. Moving from the lab to the clinic requires years of rigorous testing, regulatory approvals, and real-world validation. It's a slow process, but a necessary one. Safety cannot be rushed. The path from discovery to standard care is long and filled with checkpoints. Every new drug delivery system must pass through multiple stages: preclinical studies, human trials, safety reviews, and regulatory scrutiny. And even after approval, there's ongoing monitoring for side effects, long-term outcomes, and population-wide effectiveness. Still, despite the hurdles, the potential benefits are staggering. Being able to treat diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, glioblastoma, epilepsy, and more, not just symptomatically, but at the source, is a breakthrough too big to ignore. The risks are real, the challenges are complex. But the alternative, leaving the brain locked away from life-saving treatments, is something we can no longer accept. This is the frontier of medicine, and we're learning how to cross it. The future: precision drug delivery to the brain. We're heading into a new era, a future where brain medicine is no longer blunt, slow, or systemic, but precise, personal, and intelligent. Imagine walking into a hospital where your care begins not with a general diagnosis, but with a real-time, high-resolution scan of your brain. An AI-assisted system maps exactly where the problem is, whether it's a tumor, a cluster of overactive neurons, or a region showing early signs of neurodegeneration. Then, using focused ultrasound or another breakthrough technique, the system opens the blood-brain barrier at that exact location, just long enough for a tailored drug infusion to do its job. No surgery, no high-dose systemic chemotherapy, no collateral damage to healthy tissue. Just smart, targeted, on-demand therapy delivered where and when it's required. This isn't far-off science fiction. The technologies are already here. What's coming next is integration, refinement, and expansion. And it won't stop with Alzheimer's or brain tumors. The same techniques that let us cross the blood-brain barrier could be applied to a wide range of neurological and psychiatric conditions, many of which have long been considered untreatable or poorly understood. Imagine delivering neuroprotective drugs to the substantia nigra in patients with Parkinson's disease, slowing the progression of motor symptoms, or modulating specific circuits in the prefrontal cortex to better manage depression or PTSD, delivering antidepressants or neuromodulators with pinpoint accuracy, or reaching inflamed regions of the brain in multiple sclerosis patients, calming the immune system right where it's doing damage. Wherever the brain is affected, this emerging toolkit of ultrasound, nanocarriers, and peptide shuttles might offer a way to treat without trauma, to heal without harm. But of course, there's more work to do. We'll need larger trials, better regulation, and long-term data. However, the momentum is real. The proof of concept has already arrived. We're not just unlocking the brain. We're learning how to knock at the door, walk in carefully, and fix what's broken without breaking anything else. This is precision medicine, not just for the body, for the brain. And it's on the way. The bigger picture: tech that rewrites the rules. The blood-brain barrier has fascinated and frustrated scientists for over a century. First identified in the late 1800s, it was always a mystery. Why did certain dyes and drugs circulate through the body but never reach the brain? Over time, we learned it was due to an intricate biological defense system, a network of tightly packed cells guarding the brain like Fort Knox. Brilliant in its design, but brutal in its resistance to medical intervention. For decades, the barrier stood as a symbol of limitation, a biological no-entry sign. It stopped toxins indeed, but it also stopped cures. Now all of that is changing. For the first time in history, we're combining tools from physics, nanotechnology, and molecular biology to solve a problem that no one discipline could crack alone. Focused ultrasound uses mechanical waves to loosen microscopic junctions. Nanocarriers use material science to sneak therapeutics through undetected. Peptide shuttles use biology's own transport codes to bypass locked gates. And artificial intelligence is emerging as the conductor of it all, mapping, predicting, and personalizing each intervention down to the millimeter. This is more than a breakthrough in drug delivery. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach brain health. It's about reimagining what's possible. Conditions we once considered untreatable because we couldn't physically reach them are now back on the table. Brain tumors, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsy, PTSD, multiple sclerosis, depression, stroke. The list keeps growing. It's no longer just about managing symptoms. It's about accessing the brain with purpose, with control, and with care. Finally delivering the treatments that science has been waiting to unleash. This shift represents something bigger than any single technology. It's a new framework, a new lens through which we view the most complex organ in the human body. One that says, if we can reach it, we can treat it. If we can treat it, we can change lives. It's the convergence of ideas that once lived in separate silos. And it's turning untreatable into treatable, turning barriers into doorways, turning hope into results. We have the tools to deliver healing directly into the brain without breaking it. Diseases once considered hopeless are now targets for precision treatment. If this innovation blew your mind, subscribe for more deep dives into the future of medicine and science. Share with someone who could benefit, and like the video so others can learn too. In the comments, tell us, what brain mystery or illness would you want science to solve next? Thanks for watching. Stay blessed, stay curious, and please keep your mind open.